Welcome, everyone. I am Karen from Stampin' Up! And here at Stampin' Up!, my title is Product Manager over Product Training, which is kind of what we're here to do today, and also our retreats.
And my name is Cindy, and I'm a senior concept artist. I get to make all the samples and use these new ink pads to make those samples in all of our catalogs and our online projects.
So all that beautiful stuff you see comes from Cindy's department.
Aw.
And we are so excited today to announce our brand new Stampin' Pads.
So excited. We're here to share some information that will help you have the best possible experience with the all-new Stampin' Up! Stamp Pad, which we are releasing the very beginning with our 5 new 2026-2028 in colors.
And how pretty are those in colors? Should we
They're
show
my
them?
favorite. Let's look.
Let's look.
All right, so here are the stamp pads and the new colors. We have Barely Blush, Crisp Cantaloupe, Golden Glow, Peaceful Pine, and Hydrangea Hue.
They have pretty names.
They do. Which one's your favorite?
Oh, we had this talk the other day, Jane,
know.
and I was like, that's like making me choose my favorite child. But I think today my favorite is Hydrangea Hue.
I'm going to have to say mine is Peaceful Pine. I love a good green that goes with a lot of colors, but then also is great for leaves and greenery.
Well, not only do we have beautiful new colors, but we have brand new pads that we're going to show them today and show them all the cool things about them.
And they're so bright and shiny, and I'm excited to get involved and tell you all about them. And also get some tips on how you can have a really great stamping experience with it.
Well, let's show them some of the things that are new about our pads.
Okay.
First of all, they are magnetic, you guys. This is very cool.
Yeah.
The lid sticks together. Can you kind of see that happening?
And they're a little bit heavier because of that magnetic that's inside of it.
Yep. And as usual, we still have the stamp pad designed so that your ink is being stored upside down, which is awesome.
And it's very important, so then that way it maintains that ink throughout the pad.
Yes. So also, because they're magnetic, look at what they can do, you guys. I know you can stack together, which is really nice.
And you can keep going. And going, and going.
Which is so nice when you are working on a project to be able to have them just stacked up right there at the top of your workspace and not have to worry about them sliding around.
Yes. And for storage as well, so everything can be stacked on top of each other.
Yep, and let's show about the lid. I think this is kind of a cool thing. Our current stamp pads, which we're going to show you in just a second, everything's attached. So when you open them, they fold underneath and you don't have to worry about losing your lid. But the nice thing about these is I can still keep them right together. They just stick when I pull them apart.
So no losing your lid or anything like that, because it just automatically magnetizes together.
Yes. So these are also, as you can see, any age, any kind of hand can open these stamp pads.
Yeah, let's bring up our old stamp pads so we can take a look at the difference.
So this is one of our current stamp pads. This is called Secret C, and it's one of my favorite colors.
Me too. Me too. It's the new neutral.
So as a reminder, to open this pad, you would go like this and then slide that together. So this one functions just a little bit differently.
How easy was that? So easy, and anybody can do it. And I think with anybody that has a little bit of trouble of opening up these pads and closing them,
me, I have a little bit of arthritis.
Me too.
And so this is so nice.
And so this is really hard sometimes to get it to close. Sometimes it sticks, but look how easy that is. It's so easy. I absolutely love the way that these open and close, and I can have a bunch of them out all at the same time. I can have quite a few of them right next to each other. I always turn this upside down. There we go. So you can have quite a few of them as you're working in multiples.
So let's talk about what the first thing would be I would want to do when I receive my pad.
Okay. So the first thing you do, let's get a brand new one. Let's bring my favorite color in.
Okay, deal.
So we have Peaceful Pine. And so you can see that the logo top is on the very front. The label is on the top. And then when you turn it around, you're going to undo this, which will be in a wrapping. It'll be
wrapped in plastic.
Yeah. So you want to unwrap everything. And then you're going to turn it over, and you're going to see we have some labels for you to use. So we have 2 in English, 1 in French, and 1 in German.
Awesome.
And so what you'll want to do first is you're going to pull this off. And let me see if I can do this with my fingernails.
Sometimes I use the edge of my scissors or my piercing tool to do that.
And then you're just going to pull off one of them, depending on which one you need. Now, if
Let's
you will
put this
look,
so they can see one that's done and then see us do one.
now the one main reason why you want to put it on the bottom, because if you were to take this whole label off, you would have nothing on the back side of the case. You wouldn't know which one goes to which.
Right.
Well, you might mix it up, especially
So
if you
let's
have
show them
some
what
ink.
mine looks like done.
Yep.
So we've got one of the labels on the inside, and I don't even care what language they're in. I just need to see that color.
You need to see the color, because sometimes it's hard to distinguish between certain colors.
Mm-hmm.
If you have like two blues that are really close together, you want to make sure that they're separate.
So you can see we've got one label on the inside of the pad where the felt pad is. You might have heard a little word there that surprised you. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then one right here. So we're going to have Cindy do that.
So what you're going to do is you're going to take your label. So if you look at your top of your logo, you want to go to the bottom layer. So you're just going to lay it out in the center. Just kind of get it set. Well, get it set with my, and then pull it down.
Things are always harder on video. Don't you agree?
Of course. All right. So now I've got my pad. So now when I put it on top of each other, so now I've got this one here. Now when I have them stacked, I can see both of the colors. All right.
And why didn't you put it on this top part?
Because I didn't want, when they are separated, I want to be able to see which case bottom or top, as you may want to say, goes with the ink pad.
So now you would take another label and put one on the same inside, right?
Right.
As where your pad is.
Yes. So I'm going to take off the bottom one here. And like Karen said, you can use whichever one you want, as long as you can see the color. So then on the inside of it, with the pad, you want to place this in this area right here. So we're just going to place that. And that way you can always see your color and what you're using right on the top.
Right. And both sides have a label.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
So that's what we recommend you do for how you want to stack or how to label them. And then we're going to begin to stamp with them.
Let's tell them about some of the differences. We did mention that this one opens differently, but there's something else that's kind of a key difference.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, major difference. So we're moving from foam to felt, and that is a huge change. And it also comes with some learning experiences on how to work with felt. After years and years of having foam, it kind of takes a little bit. I've been working these for about a year or so.
Yes, we've had some samples here in the office for our concept art team to use.
Yes.
So you've really learned some good things about using felt as opposed to foam.
I have, and it's really wonderful. I mean, it does take time, and always everybody says it takes 27 times to become a habit.
Oh.
And so I always like to say, more practice, the more perfect you're going to get.
Yes.
So keep constantly trying and playing and getting a feel for how the felt pad works for your stamping.
I agree. And as opposed to Cindy, who's only been working with these for about a year, I actually have been working with felt for many years. So Cindy and I are going to share some things that we both learned as more of a beginner and as someone who's worked with felt for a long time, of how we think that you can be really successful with these felt pads. There are some differences, and I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. I've also used foam. I would just say that there are a few differences, and we want to show you those differences so that you can be really successful.
Yes.
So, do you happen to have a stamp of piercement?
I do.
Okay. All right, let's bring that mat in, Cindy.
Okay.
This is what we've got. This is foamy and has just a little bit of give if you've never seen one before. They're handy little guys.
And also, this is a really great way to get a better experience with our photopolymer stamp sets as well. And so if you have this or something of a mat or something like that, you can use that. But we recommend using the piercing mat for stamping with good results.
Yes.
So
something that gives a little bit. And we brought in a stamp set to show you. This is a photopolymer stamp set. It has some solid images in it, and it has some more lined images in it. So we're going to show you a few little tips and tricks.
yeah.
Okay, let's think. We've already put these on some blocks.
And we have just a piece of our basic white cardstock. And so what we're going to do is we have two different types of surfaces for stamping. And so what you want to do, and I think Karen taught me this a long time ago, is that you want to walk it.
Yes.
And tell me what walk it means, Karen, because that's something I was like, wait, what does that mean? What do you mean walk? That was the very first thing I was like, what do you mean walk it? So tell us what walk it means.
Okay. I think a lot of times we just, on a foam pad, we would just put it down, ink it, and stamp it.
Yes.
I find that on a felt pad, you get the best results if you just kind of walk it around your pad a little bit before you stamp it. And then put it down as usual, just straight down and straight up, and you'll get a beautiful, beautiful image.
I love that. And then when you're using the same thing with more of a solid image, the same thing goes. Now, however,
talk about seasoning our stamp.
I was just going to say, so this is something that I learned from Karen, and I love this because what I usually do is I'll just take a wipe that doesn't have any lint ability to it, and I'll just wipe off a little bit of the surface, because what we do is when the processing happens, you get maybe a little bit of residue left over.
Yeah, it's like kind of shiny when you first see that brand new stamp, which is so pretty, but it also means that the ink might bead off just a little bit if you don't season it.
Correct. And so what I do is wipe it off, but what Karen does and show them, I love this. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Very technical, guys. I like to rub it right on my hand. The oil from your skin kind of just takes that finish right off.
Yes.
But there are lots of ways you can season. You could take an eraser and rub it. You can just ink it and stamp it off on on some scratch paper. So whatever method works for you. The important thing is that you season it.
Yes.
And then again, we'll want to walk. And the more solid your stamp is with that felt pad, the more you're going to want to really pay attention as you're inking to make sure everything's getting inked well and that you're walking it. And then same, just going to go straight down and straight up.
Perfect.
For a beautiful image. So you can see even a nice solid stamp will work great on felt pads as well as a lined stamp. What about a big, huge background stamp, Cindy?
Okay.
We show them that.
So we do have a large stamp set here. This one is called, let me remember, Moody Leaves. And it is a new background stamp set. And so the thing that we want to make sure you notice, Karen, the way that she stamped the other one, she put the stamp to the ink. And on a large surface like this, what you want to do is you'll want to actually stamp with the case. So I like to pull it off of the magnetic.
Let's season it really quick.
Oh, yes. It's a brand new pad.
Yes.
Brand new ink.
You know what? I'm crazy too. I think because I do this with a brand new stamp, for some reason, every time I pull out a stamp set and stamp, I just do it again. I would habit. I don't know. That way, you know, you always have seasoned stamps.
So what you're going to do is you're going to actually turn the pad, the side case with the pad, and you're going to stamp it like this. You're going to ink it up like this. And you're going to get better results if you do that. And I don't think we need to, well, let's go ahead. Let's just play. Just kind of tap it on, walk it around, ink pad.
Make sure everything has ink on it. Foam inks a little bit easier. So I think that's something to keep in mind when you use felt. You're going to want to pay really good attention to making sure your ink is on there nice and even and that you're getting plenty.
Yes. And the one thing you want to make sure you do is that you put that back on that case. And then when you go to stamp it, you're turning it over and laying it straight down.
Yeah,
as hard as you can. We always like to press in the center as well.
Why do we do that, Cindy? I think it's because, I think we normally will hold our stamps and push on the corners. And that means all the pressure's there. But when you have a large stamp, like a background stamp, especially with how much solid we have here, we want to make sure we get even pressure. So Cindy was talking about pushing in the middle. I'm even crazy enough that I do this.
Kind of smooth it down with your thumb.
You could even take your brayer if you want it
and
run over the top of that.
So then that way when image. And you've got a perfect little image.
Yes, and it turns out great. So those are just a few little tips for stamping with felt. Also, let's talk about re-inking, shall we?
Okay, so in the past, when we've done re-inking, I like to leave them a little bit on, sometimes leaving it sideways like this. When you use re-inker, we've done in the past, where on foam, we've done it all the way through the ink pad. But this is something that I learned from Karen, that because felt is a actual natural fiber material, you only need to center it in, place it in the center, correct?
Yes. So I would probably ink from top to bottom about a 1/2 inch in, because that ink spreads really easily in the felt. Also, we always seem to, when we ink, put our stamp right in the center.
Yes.
And that pushes our ink out more and more every time. And so the center is where I find the most success when I re-ink, and usually don't have to go quite all the way to the edge. And what about some of the techniques? Should we tell them about that?
Oh, well,
can you do the same things with felt that you
of
can do with
course
foam?
you can.
Awesome.
One of the main things, I guess, is this wonderful little well that we have here on the other side of the case, and you can actually do what we call, Karen calls, what is it, CPR?
I call it stamp pad CPR.
So what you're doing, again, in order to get that ink inside of this well, and you can use re-inkers. We do have re-inkers for these, but you can use the ink if you want just a lighter watercolor look. And so we're going to close it up, and then we're going to take it and we're going to press in between these. And what that is doing is it's transferring the ink from the pad into the well. So we're just going to press that. And then we're open it up, and you can see
it's also a little shallower than what we're used to in our foam pads, so it's a little easier to transfer that ink.
Definitely. Now, the one thing that I love about this is that you've got this well here, and you can leave that there, but the only thing that I would do, maybe if you were going to turn it upside down, or you've got a little bit more water in your well here, I would clean it off.
I would too, just so I didn't get water back in my pad.
Yep.
So if you were using a water brush, you would just pick that up and maybe adding a little bit of water in there with the brush. I'd wipe that out. But if you were just using a dry paintbrush to do like some splatters or whatever, then I wouldn't feel like I had to wipe that off.
Yes.
What about any kind of other techniques that we did with our foam pads, like swiping?
So if you wanted to, again, because the ink pad, the MAC, let me say that again. Because of the pad being raised, like our other one, you can actually do still the swiping. So you can do still some swiping across and adding a little bit of texture with your ink pad as well. So you could do that still with this stamp pad.
Let's show them one other little fun trick. This is probably something you've already done with foam, but with felt, it's a little less messy.
Oh.
And so you can just ink your edges just by running that right along the edge.
That is exciting news. That could be really fun. Awesome. I love that.
Should we put that against something light so they can see that just barely got the very edge?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, you can see that nice little inked edge there. So you can do all the same fun techniques that you could do with foam with our felt pads.
Exactly.
And I think they're going to love this new case.
I do too. Yeah. I love it. It's nice and bright. And it's only in these 5 new ink colors at the beginning with. So when you purchase the new ink pads, you're going to want to look at the new ink colors are only available
26 to 28 ink colors is where we're starting with the release of these pads. And it'll give you plenty of time to really play with them and get used to the differences as we continue to roll things out.
So, Karen, I think we've told them everything they need to know.
I think so, too. In fact, we've been using the new felt stamp pads here in the office for quite some time, and we're really loving them and finding great success. We hope that after watching our video, you will also find success as you begin collecting them.